Hey everybody, it's Phil Bruce here, and in today's video I want to talk about fitness assessments and the things to be aware of if you are conducting a fitness assessment on a client, or whether you are a client that's taking part in a fitness assessment, because there's so many kind of facts within it, so many affecting mitigating factors when it comes to fitness assessments, that just the little tweaks and things can have a real impact on your results, can have a real impact on what you manage to achieve or you manage to get from the relevant fitness assessments that you take and carry out. And I just want to discuss a few of them here, just so we're aware in conducting them what we kind of can do to make it as consistent as possible, and also in the sense of taking part of it, what we can do to help ourselves out and to get the best results that we can possibly get. So when you're doing a fitness assessment, basically it could be things like your heart rate, it could be blood pressure, it could be cardiovascular endurance, it could be power, strength, speed. There's so many flexibility, there's so many aspects, so many things that you can carry out. And sometimes you might look at it and think, like, when you've carried it out one time, there's a certain result, and then when you've carried it out another time, you might feel like it's totally different. And yes, it'd be great if on like the time after the first one you managed to get a higher result, which shows you've improved your fitness, it shows you've improved within those certain aspects of fitness. But sometimes you might actually decrease, or you might actually get a lower score, or you might get the same score even though you feel fitter and stronger, more flexible, and all those kind of things that you did before. And you may wonder why, and I just want to give some ideas and reasons why that could be, and what things to be aware of. So when we're carrying out these fitness assessments, one of the first things to think about it, again, if you are the assessor, or you're being, when I say the assessor, the person carrying out the fitness test, or whether you are the person that's got a PT or a doctor or whoever carrying the test out for you, is being aware of the PT or the person's motivations, motivation levels, and the whatever they say and how they are, their kind of attitude and spirit. Because if you think about it, when you're being encouraged consistently, when you're being encouraged quite loudly, when you're being encouraged in a positive manner, that can have an impact on your result. That can have a positive impact, most probably, that you feel more motivated to get a better result. You feel like you're motivating the client to push them that little bit further, or to get that better result. Whilst if you are then carrying the test out another time without being as motivating, or without saying anything, or being a bit more negative in your approach, think about how that can come across as well. You know, as the client, you might think, if they're a bit negative, I'm not quite as motivated to push myself, I don't feel quite at the level that I did when they were motivating me. Or is that PT or assessor, again, think about how that client's going to feel. Are they going to be ready to really push themselves, or get to the best level possible? If you're not motivating them, you're negative or you're neutral about it. So that's one of the factors. Again, that's how we approach it. That could be our body posture, that could be the voice, the tonality, it could be just, as I say, the positivity, the words that we're saying as well. So that'll have an effect. Another effect could be the temperature of the room. So if the room is really warm, again, if it's excessively warm, think about how they're sweating. Think about how that's going to fatigue someone. It's going to use more energy. Think about, for a heart rate point of view, it'll elevate the heart rate. That'll go up a bit. So again, that could have an impact, especially if you're doing heart rate monitor tests or blood pressure tests. Again, and relating to the blood pressure test and the heart rate test, if you are being motivated quite a bit with that, and it's overstimulated, yeah, and it's over aroused, yeah, that could get the heart rate sky high, that could get the heart rate higher. Whilst if you're not being motivated, if it's kind of calm, neutral kind of thing, that could lower it. So think about that effect. But yes, going back to the temperature, if, as I say, it's really, really warm in that room, think about how we're elevating the heart rate, how we're sweating more, how we're feeling a bit more fatigued. Whilst if it's really cold in there, Again, think about it from the muscles point of view. If the muscles aren't warm, if they haven't done a warm-up, you haven't done certain exercises, certain phases, and your muscles are cold, think about the chance of increased likelihood of injury pulling a muscle. If I'm doing some stretching, some flexibility work, am I going to get the same level of flexibility? For example, sit and reach. Am I going to be able to touch my toes or go as far if my hamstrings are cold, if my back is cold, for example? So again, the body temperature can have, the body temperature and the temperature of the room can have an impact and can have a say in the results. Think about as well from a female's point of view, the menstrual cycle, and think about if the woman's on her period. Again, if you carry it out at the time when she's on a period, she's going to feel more fatigued, she's going to feel more irritable, you know, she's going to have less energy compared to if she's in the ovulation kind of stage. If she's in the stage where, again, energy levels are higher, she's feeling more confident, she's feeling happier, she's feeling better about herself, she's feeling, as I say, more energized. That can have an effect. So if I'm going to do a test for a female, I'd probably try and look to do it at the same time within their menstrual cycle each time we do it, or as similar as we can to it, and probably not do it while she is on a period, because that, as I say, that can have an effect on it as well, a negative effect. So you've got to put that into perspective. Again, think about how nervous the person could be. Again, if I'm the client and I'm really nervous about the assessment, again, think what that's going to do for my heart rate, for my blood pressure. That'll spike it up, that'll elevate it. So again, it'll look like I've got a higher resting heart rate or higher blood pressure than what I usually have. Whilst if I'm kind of relaxed, if I'm calm, if I'm, if I feel chilled out, that's going to lower it. That's going to keep it calm and more relaxed. So again, from an assessor's point of view or a trainer's point of view, think of what you can do to keep the client calm, or as relaxed as you can whilst you're doing that kind of assessment. Think of what, as well, it might be better to carry out that assessment 2 or 3 times, for example, and see what the best result is for him, and see what the most consistent result is. Again, just trying to chill and calm out, and just try and keep relating to the point before. Try and keep your attitude and your motivation levels the same, especially when you're doing that kind of thing. You want it to be as calm as possible. Again, another factor, clothing that you're wearing. If the client is wearing out tight-fitted clothing and they're trying to do an assessment of movement, again, think about how that could pull on. Think about that could reduce the range of motion or the comfort that they're getting when they're doing the move. So again, if you're doing a 1 rep max test or a strength test, think if I'm wearing a super tight top and it's restricting the movement I've got, think about how that can have an impact in the results. Or if I'm wearing baggy clothes, again, think that might not be as restrictive on the muscles that you're wearing it when you're doing those kind of lifts. But again, I think if I'm wearing baggy trousers and I'm trying to run, that could, it could do a cardiovascular test. That could possibly impact the results compared to wearing shorts. So again, that's another thing to think about. And the clothing that you're wearing can then have an impact on the temperature, in the sense of how the person's feeling, warm, cold, those kind of things. So try and keep that as consistent as possible. And go with the temperature again. Think about it at the time of the year. So if you're doing it in the summer and it's really warm and you're doing the assessments outside, think about how that could be different from if it's winter time and you're doing the assessments inside. So the person could be sweating outside more. In the sun could tire them out a bit more. Or as I say, if it's a hot room in the winter. So we've talked about that bit before. But again, just think about how the time of the year could have an impact, and try, regardless of the time of the year, to keep the room and the environment as neutral, as similar as possible if you can. Again, think about if the client isn't feeling very well, if they've got if they got a cold, if they got flu, if they got something like that when they're doing one of the assessments. Think about how that could have an impact in the results. Could they be more fatigued and tired, which will lessen the results? Could, again, the heart rate be spiked up and the blood pressure because the immune system trying to fight it, trying to fight the bug, trying to fight the cold? So, again, try and do the assessments when the client is feeling healthy, feeling well. If they're feeling unwell, I probably wouldn't recommend doing it then. And another one is, what tests are you doing? Are you doing the same tests? So, for example, if I'm doing a 1-rep max test, or a strength test, shall we say, and I'm doing a 1-rep max test for a bench press, I want to measure my chest. If I'm doing the 1-rep max bench press one time, but doing a 1-rep max chest press for another test, it'll show a different result because, again, I'm putting it for a different plane of motion, range of motion. Or if I'm doing a 1-rep max bench press test one time and a 5-rep max bench press one time, again, that'll be different because the weights will be different because the repetitions that I'm doing are different with that. Think about the rest and recovery time you're having between the assessments and tests. We don't want to do it when the person's too fatigued. So again, think if I'm doing a 1-rep max test, I've lifted a certain thing and then I want to go on to the next weight. I need to give myself enough time to recover from the previous lift to then give it the most for my next lift. Because if I do it too soon, the muscles are still fatigued, which will have an effect. Or if I am going from transitioning from a strength test to a cardiovascular endurance test, so for example, the 1-rep max test, and I'm then going to a bleep test. If I'm doing that too soon after, yes, it's a different component of fitness, but there will be still some fatigue there because my body's recovering. So I need to give myself adequate time from one test to another test within that. So again, there's loads of factors that you could see there that have an effect when you are coming to do assessment fitness tests and all those kind of things as well. And I think the last one to talk about just for now, again, there's more than what I am talking about, I'm just trying to give you examples, is if I'm carrying out a fitness test just after somebody's recovered from an injury, think how the results will be different than if I'm carrying it out when they're at their peak fitness and they've trained for a number of weeks. Or again, if you're thinking about a football season, if I'm carrying out a fitness assessment when the players have had an off-season and they're coming back for pre-season, and then I had one carrying out a fitness test halfway through the season, you should have different results because of the conditioning of the players there. So again, think how that will have an effect. Yes, you want to see improved results, of course you do. It's just trying to make it as consistent as possible. And in the pre-season, off-season and midway through, yes, there should be an improvement in results. If there isn't, you need to then question what training would do with the player. But if you're doing one where they're just coming back from injury, you're probably looking at it differently than if they're at the peak fitness. So just take that into account as well. So I hope you found that little topic useful. Again, that's if you're carrying out assessments as a client, as a PT, as a doctor or whatever kind of health professional you are, or if you are a client or a player or somebody taking part in the fitness assessments, just being aware of those things as well. So I hope you found that useful. As I say, I'll look forward to putting another video on. And again, as always, if there's anything you want me to cover, please let me know and I happily will do so. Hope you've had a great start to the week and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.